definitely on that team though.
Oh, nice. I don't think.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
yeah.
I don't think
Might
they
have.
got him in this
I think
in
he
the
came
traded
over
set.
post traded set.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right.
So you're 9. I'm older than you. I have very vivid memories of the postseason. Giants
Mhm.
had been knocked out by the Cardinals in '87. It was a great. I was happy to be here. It was our first postseason. It's Will Clark's second year. It's like that was a fun team. Hum babies. They're happy to be there. They blew it against the Cardinals, which still kind of hurts. Whatever. But '89, they were locked and loaded. '89 is Will Clark. It's Kevin Mitchell. It's Russell. It's Robbie. It's Uribe. It's Matt Williams. That team was
Mhm.
good. Mitchell wins the MVP that year, right?
Who was their best pitcher?
It was
Like after
Russell.
who was second?
Russell,
Who was second best after Russell?
'89. Let's bring it up. Was it? I should know all this. 1989. Here we go. So it's Don Robinson and Scotty Gurels. Gurels goes 14-5. Russell goes 17-8 at age 40. And they also
Wow.
had a real good bullpen. They had Lacoste, they had Brantley, they had the Goose. Goose actually is released by your team.
Yeah,
Goose
he's
went
released by the
13
Cubs.
for was yeah, he was 13 for 26 the year before in saves. And he gets released, which is why they traded for Mitch Williams.
Yep,
Um,
that's exactly right.
yeah, it was a good team. What do you remember about the postseason? I was in college. You were younger.
I was younger. I just remember everyone being so excited that the
Mm-hmm.
Cubs are again back. And then the next thing I remember is like everyone just being so sad and
Oh,
everyone hating Will Clark. Those are the things I remember. And
not
it's fun to
everyone.
go. Yeah, it's no, not you guys. Everyone in Chicago. I remember like, oh my god, I mean, it's so funny to like look back at like just how much of a beast he was in that. I remember, I think there's a
Yeah.
Zimmer quote where after the first game, they asked Zimmer, like, well, what did you think of Will Clark? And he's like, he said something like, he, he had a great week today. That's what he
Yes.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the Giants beat him 11-3 in the opener. Clark gets a grand slam.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just remember
So
just total disappointment. Just everyone
yeah.
feeling deflated.
Yeah.
What do you
Well,
remember?
I remember I was a sophomore in college. I was at UC Davis, and I remember that the Giants were up 3-1. Right, Giants won the first, Cubs won the second. I think Maddox actually got the win in the second game, and then Giants came back, won games 3 and 4. That candlestick, trying to close out the series. Giants have 2 bases loaded. Yeah, bases loaded with Will Clark up, and Mitch Williams comes in, and Clark drives the ball up the middle, single back in the box, base hit to center, 2-run score. Giants go up 3-1. I remember the Cubs threatening in the that was the 8th, so the top of the 9th. I remember the Cubs come back and score a run and make it 3-2. Nail biter. Steve Bedrosian was our closer. Bedrock, got him from the Braves. I remember. But he was good. So I really remember. I remember that decisive game 5. I remember being in a composition class, an English creative writing class, and
Mhm,
my she wasn't a professor. She was probably a grad student, lecturer,
mhm.
creative writing, small group, and her name was. She might not want me to say her name. I'll just say her first name, Elizabeth. Um, so I remember her being pretty cool and letting me have my little radio, old school, radio, listen to the game. The Giants. I remember going nuts when the throw got the hit. But I also remember this same composition teacher from Elizabeth. Uh, I remember seeing her. I was trying to lose weight and I was going to Weight Watchers. And I remember seeing her there and she was trying to lose weight also at Weight Watchers. And I was a creative writing composition. I've always been creative, always been a writer. I remember thinking like, oh, we're both this Weight Watchers meeting. This would make a really good short story. Like this kind of thing, because everyone's kind of on their own journey, their own
Mhm.
process. You might not want to be seen or know anybody there, but I remember being a little awkward, but not that awkward.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
And
that's
then
fun.
I remember the earthquake.
Yeah.
I remember feeling it up at Davis, and I mean, earthquake, fire, flood. The Giants were never going to beat the A's. That was a stacked team. 89 Athletics. Woo, woo, woo.
Oh my god.
Can you
I
believe they
just
only won one series? All
that's
those.
what I
Oh my
that's
god.
what I always think about, how they got,
Yeah.
there was the Gibson, with
Yup.
losing to the Dodgers in '88, and
Yep.
then they got smoked by the Reds in '90, and I was shocked because
Swept.
so I was a big Cubs fan, but as a single player fan, Canseco was my guy.
Oh,
I loved Canseco, so I was like, heartbroken as a kid that that they lost in '90. I remember being like, "What the heck? Like, how could they lose in '90?" And he hits that grand slam in '88, and they still lose when Gibson hits that magic home run.
it's crazy. That's crazy. So what else is going on in 89?
So '89. So yeah. So I'm 9 years old. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty young at this point in time. Um, but one of the things that I remember being a really big deal in '89 was Batman the movie.
Oh yeah, Batman the movie.
And I feel like it stands up. I mean, part
Uh-huh.
of it is that, like, I do love Tim Burton. I'm a big
Yeah.
Tim Burton fan,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
like, whoever was the genius that decided to, like, take, Beetlejuice guy, and, like, I'm gonna have him do Batman, and, right, you gotta remember that at that time, for me as a little kid, Batman was kind of a goober. Batman ran around, like, with a crappy car, with an idiot sidekick, wearing,
No,
like,
man.
wearing, like, weirdly fitting, like, Lycra or
Tights.
whatever,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
tights, and it's like, "Pow, bam," and it all was, like, super campy, and
Right.
then they've got, suddenly you've got Batman in 1989, the movie, and you've got, like,
Wow.
Keaton. Keaton you don't think of as, like, a superhero guy, but he plays it
No.
so well, and, I
No.
mean, I feel like the universe that, Burton created was just insane. It was, like, mind-blowing, like, the body armor that
Yep.
Batman wore, like, just how
Yep.
dark and heavy the movie is, and it, like,
Yep.
starts off with, like, deep psychological trauma, him, like, losing his parents, and the other thing that I really remember is, so I remember also just, like, how hot Kim Basinger was,
Oh, Vicky
and I was like
Vale.
"Oh my god!" Like, I'm 9 and I'm, like, starting to, like, feel things, right? You're, like, kinda like, "Oh my god."
Starting to feel
Yeah,
things.
and you're like, he's got, like, this armor where he just, like, looks
Yeah.
cool, he's really
Yeah.
mad, he's, like, out for
Yeah.
vengeance. You've got, like, Jack Nicholson,
Yep.
being, like, totally insane. You've got, like, the Prince song that was then repopularized
Huge.
in the Jordan. When you watch the Michael Jordan, the documentary, right? The Last
Yeah.
Dance, they played
Yeah.
that song, that
Oh, they
Prince
do.
song.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
love that song. Um, and then you've got, like, the Batmobile. Like, for me at that age, that Batmobile was a really big deal because
Oh my
it
god.
went from being kind of like this junky looking car that I would never want to being what looked like a crazy version of, like, a Corvette, like a Stingray vet. Oh yeah,
You're talking about this car.
there it is. Oh my
Ah.
god. Like,
So they actually had this on display at the Smithsonian. I live here near DC in
mhm,
Alexandria, the Museum of Natural History. That was called American
mhm.
History, whatever it is, the cool one. They had this in the lobby. It blew my mind.
Isn't it awesome? It
It's
just
so
looked
cool.
so cool.
It's
Like,
so good.
Tim Burton, he's just a genius, and, like, he figured out all the right people to bring on to, like, carry out his vision, and,
Totally.
I mean, the movie was a blockbuster, right?
Yep.
They went all out with the
Yep.
marketing, like, it was everywhere you looked,
Yep.
right?
Everywhere.
And in Chicago, like, this was a few years later, but, I mean, this movie had such a big deal, or was
Mhm.
such a big deal that, they made this roller coaster. So, here you go, yeah, Batman the Ride. So in Chicago, the Six Flags is called Great America. That's, like, the
Okay. Oh,
big
yeah, we
theme
have
park.
Great America in the Bay too.
I see, cool. The Chicago one's in a place called Gurnee, Illinois, and, this was a place that was, like, pretty well known for having, like, some of the most legit roller coasters in the States. So, this Batman ride, so it's a roller coaster, but it's a roller coaster where it's not one where you sit down in a little car and then you ride on top of the coaster track. You're kind of
Yes.
the track is above
Yes.
the thing that you're sitting in, and your legs are dangling. And so when you go over a loop, it's your legs are on the outside of the loop.
Oh,
And, like,
that's horrible.
kids throughout Chicagoland like lost their mind, and everybody you had to ride this ride or you were not like a legit human being, right?
That seems so torturous to me.
And dude, it was the other thing okay, so I remember the ride being super fast
Yeah,
and it was super awesome. The line for it was insane.
I bet.
And so this roller coaster exists in that same park today, and I think
Wow.
it's been duplicated something like 7 times in other parks.
Yes. Yeah, actually, you're
Um,
absolutely right. So this is the first one.
this is the first one in Chicago. I think it was
Yeah, I did my
1992.
research. There
Yeah,
are a
yeah.
bunch of them. Yeah, 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 for sure. Wow,
Dude,
good knowledge.
and it was
Great
like
ride.
it was yeah, it was awesome. I actually thought that, like, compared to a regular coaster, I actually quite liked it a lot more because I felt like it was a lot smoother, like, when you went through
Yeah,
everything, you
yeah,
didn't get, like, jerked around as much, it was just smooth and just fast as hell.
'cause it was your body and not a car, right? It's your
Yeah.
body in space. That's terrifying. There's nothing there.
Yeah. But, oh
Oh
my
my
god,
god,
I
dude.
I
This movie
remember
was
just
huge.
just sitting there, like, banging my legs together and being like, "Okay, let's do this. Let's
Oh,
ride this thing,
crazy,
man." But so
dude.
I was like, yeah, Batman do you remember
Batman
seeing
was
it?
Oh my god, do I remember it, absolutely. I got the movie poster up now. Actually, it's a beautiful piece of graphic design, right?
Mhm.
Just the way the bat is centered, uh, and if you notice, it's a horizontal logo, right? Like Batman's logo, but on a vertical poster, and just like the way it's cut off, it's actually beautiful. It's perfect. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous poster. But actually, the thing that's most important, worth noticing, is look at the order of stars at the top of the poster.
Mhm.
Nicholson would not be after Keaton. Nicholson's the bigger star. Doesn't matter who's, and he steals the movie as Joker, right? It's the most natural casting ever. Huge opposition to them casting Michael Keaton. There were 50,000 letters of protest that were sent to the studio. There were
God,
people because he's like, what is this, like
he's a
Mr.
comedy guy.
Mom? And
Yeah,
yeah, Beetlejuice is going to be Batman. People are up in arms, but he was great. Tim Burton's vision was, you know what? He's a regular guy
yeah.
who puts on this costume and becomes somebody else, who's really insistent about it, and he was right. He's a great Batman, actually. People kind of sleep on him, but just different from all the rest.
The thing too is that, like, you can make a very good argument that that movie changed
Totally.
every superhero movie after that. It's completely different because of that, right? It set the
Yeah.
bar so high. It,
Yeah.
like, really created the like, it was a big moment in the anti-hero
Yeah.
kind of, like,
Yeah.
genre, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I can think about Tony Soprano, you can name off all of these people, right?
Sure.
That kind of, like, but yeah, I
And
mean, in
yeah. And
Tim
dark
Burton.
superheroes. And
Yeah,
dark superheroes. Like you think about the Marvel universe, the MCU, they're all dark.
yeah,
And you're absolutely right. Like he was a complex person with a dark side.
yeah.
I was doing my homework on this, and the um the marketing and the merchandising efforts, it was the biggest in history to that time. More way to market this movie. They knew they had a blockbuster, and if you remember, they were like everyone had like Batman T-shirts and
There's so many toys.
everything, including cards. So at
Oh,
89, I'm still collecting. Definitely collecting in 89, and it was so funny when we were putting this together. I'm like, oh, you know what? I have one shoe of non-sports, and I'm pretty sure I have some Batman cards in there. And so I pulled a few. I bought one pack, and they're pretty cool. So I'm going to show you the first one. Is There's the
nice.
Batman and Vicky Vale, Michael Keaton and Kim
Oh my
Basinger,
god.
and the quote is "death-defying duo." Pretty cool, right?
It's a
Pretty
nice
cool.
quality card too, it looks nice.
Absolutely, no, it's real good. And then the next one is it's Lando Calrissian as Harvey Dent.
Nice.
Right? So Tim Burton, really pushed to hire, Billy D. Williams because wanted to bring him back. Harvey Dent, it becomes Two-Face. The
Mhm.
bad guy's the DA here, becomes Two-Face, and really wanted to have an African American play Two-Face. But when they finally bring Two-Face to the movie, who actually gets the role? It's actually Tommy Lee Jones
Yeah,
later on, and Lando is pissed about that.
I bet.
Last one, yeah, you got screwed. Last one, I found a great card. Last one to show you. This is the Jack Nicholson Joker death scene. Look at, he just crushes the sidewalk around him. If you remember, there's a shot where he shows straight down his face and he dies with this like weird Joker smile.
Mhm.
And the caption at the bottom says, "He who laughs last." That's kind of a dark card.
Oh,
Oh my god. You know what I love about this is we're this nerdy, and there are still people in the world who love us or love us because of this. All right. We
I
got a
just
little bit.
remembered I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
remember the Prince the song, Party Man, that's the song.
Party man.
It's when, like, they introduce, like, Joker and he comes out,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I got an Apollonia card. Remember, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Purple Rain.
Oh, no, I didn't see it.
Yeah. All right. I'll
Prince
save it for
movie.
another episode.
Okay.
What else we got going? We got a couple more things in pop culture.
Alright, so the other thing that was a big deal for me was Guns N' Roses in '89.
Oh,
So, I'm pretty young at this point in time, but I'm
yeah.
starting to, like, try to feel out, like, what is the music that I like? So, Appetite for Destruction comes out. I think it comes out actually in late '87, if
That's
I
right.
remember, very
Yep.
late
That's
'87.
right. 87.
But it doesn't really get into, like, the airwaves on the radio until into '88, well into '88. That's when I first heard it, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, at that time, I'm kinda trying to be like, am I a person that likes more, like dance music, or am I a person that more likes guitar driven things? And like Appetite for Destruction was like a really big deal for me at that. Like it kind of kicked off into like Metallica and stuff like that. And like, I
Yeah.
kind of, it definitely kicked me off into like guitar driven music. But I definitely remember like even like swinging on my swing set, and like I had in my head like Welcome to the Jungle, like in my head as I'm swinging. I just remember like,
8-year-old rocker.
yeah, dude. I mean, it was if you go back, that there's so many good songs on that album, it's
All of
insane.
them. All of them.
Dude,
It's incredible to this day. Yeah.
I actually crashed my car in high school. I was driving in the morning with my brothers to school and my friend Jason. Um, and um and I had this really piece of junk Toyota Tercel that was a manual transmission. And
Mhm.
I remember like, and I was the oldest, and it was my car. I was driving it, and we were listening to Appetite, and it was, "It's So Easy" was playing.
It's
It's a,
so easy.
yeah, exactly.
That's
It's
amazing.
it was on, and it wasn't, I totaled the car. Everybody was fine, but I'll always associate that song with getting into a car accident when I was in high school. But as you can tell, so I was in high school, so this would have been like 1997. So I was
Mhm.
still listening to
Still
Appetite.
listening. Wow. Past Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, past all the rumors of the Great Spaghetti Incident. That's just like the netherworld. That's when they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. God, they
exactly.
were so big. I remember my
They are
senior year in
huge.
high school, which was 88. That album was truly ubiquitous. And then end of the year, they threw out Lies, that little, was that an EP, right?
Mhm. Is that the one that had Patience on it?
Yeah. Yeah, side 2. And side 1 is a bunch of old stuff, and then side 2 is that and a couple other songs. Um, so big. I saw them live.
Oh, really?
I did. I saw them live. So they were just like the quintessential drama band, right? They were always fighting with each other, fighting with fans,
And
fighting with everybody.
mm,
And the more chaos that they sort of stirred up, the more popular they became like part of the circus that surrounded
mhm.
GNR, right? Which one was the one? I think it was Duff Kagan got kicked out
McKagan,
from
yeah.
the band. Duff McKagan get kicked out of the band for taking too many drugs. Like how much drugs do you have to take to be kicked out of Guns N' Roses? Like, whoa, like they were all taking so much drugs. So I saw them Use Your Illusion tour. It would have been July 1991, Shoreline Amphitheater, Skid Row opens, and I got the receipts. I actually looked, and I found my ticket stub.
Oh, nice!
July 1991. July was, yeah, 19th, 1991, GNR, Shoreline Amphitheater.
So
Amazing.
I always heard that they were either, like, terrible live because
They were
something bad
terrible.
happened, or they were
Yeah.
really awesome. When you saw them, how were they?
No, they were not that good. His voice was
Uh,
off. They just Yeah, I mean, they weren't on their game, but I did today do a little homework. What I remembered was I remembered Axel took the stage and he was wearing kind of one of those like Nazi SS hats, a a catcher's chest protector, and a Scottish kilt. And sure enough, I found
Oh my
this.
god.
What's he wearing? Nazi officer SS hat, chest protector, and a kilt.
Oh my god. This guy.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
That must I
Oh.
feel like that picture is, like, every mom's nightmare from, like, the early '90s, like, my daughter dating a guy that looks like that.
Could you imagine that? Comes to the house driving a Camaro.
I just remember I okay, I did love Guns N' Roses. I actually was a big Slash fan, but
Yeah,
I didn't really like Axl, and part of it was I'm like, "How is it possible that Axl's with Stephanie Seymour?" I remember being like, "No way.
totally.
Come on."
There's no
And then
justice.
but nowadays, like, she still looks the same, and he
She
looks
does. She does.
terrible.
I remember they did the November Rain video together.
Mm. Oh, man.
So
Classic.
good. You got one
Alright.
more music reference I know for me.
Yeah, so okay, so Guns N' Roses was pushing me into guitar music.
Yeah.
There was something else that pushed me away from dance music, and that was the whole Milli Vanilli fiasco.
Oh,
Like, oh god, it was like right, for people who don't know, right, Milli Vanilli was like a pop duo of these 2 guys, and they basically sang kind of like pop music, right?
uh,
Um,
they were
like
huge.
dance. Yeah, they were huge, and I mean, they were the definition of produced,
Yep.
right? Like, and it turned out right. What there was an award ceremony or something, or
Yeah.
yeah, where
Yeah.
they went to play, and
Uh,
like it came out that like they had been lip syncing the whole time, like they
yeah.
couldn't sing at all,
Well, something
and
went wrong
yeah,
with the lip sync.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think in
Like
Houston or somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
like something went wrong with the music, like
Yeah.
with the recording, and then
Yep.
like then it was like totally apparent that, and they had won freaking Grammys, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
several. Yeah.
they were huge, and then
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
thing comes out, and I remember being like, I remember just thinking like that stuff, all of that stuff is phony. Like if people like can't play instruments, then like
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. Like I don't want anything to do with
Yeah.
it. And so like that was a pivotal moment for me, and something that
Mm.
like Guns N' Roses like pulled me towards the guitar rock music, and Milli
Yeah.
Vanilli pushed me from pop
Oh,
music.
that's awesome. Remember that with that great ballad? It's a tragedy for me to see that the dream is over. Oh,
Oh my
so much in
god.
my head, dude. I have a particularly dark memory of
Oh
Milli
yeah.
Vanilli to share. Yeah, it was, October 1989, probably right around the LCS, and my student loans had just come in, and, I rode my bike to the warehouse. First thing I did when I cashed the check is I rode my bike to the warehouse, and I have to confess to you, Matt, and our audience on that day that I not only purchased Milli Vanilli's CD, I also bought Paula Abdul, "Forever Your Girl" on the same day, dude. I don't know what I was thinking, you know? I
That's
was
how
I
you
was
want to spend your money.
I was spending like a sailor. That's typical me, man. I'm like, I'll start with stuff I don't like. It's alright, you know? Oh my
That's
god, dude,
funny.
Milli Vanilli. Right on. Listen, we gotta get going, but I am not letting you go until we take a moment to celebrate one of the great trades in my limited experience, one of the great trades in hobby history. We're celebrating 1 year since the acquisition of your 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle. So let me ask you first this question. What makes the 52 Mantle card special?
It's man, it's for me, it's like, we talked earlier about like why I collect, and I feel like collecting cards is like a deep part of like who I am, right? And there is like for me, there is no card that's kind of bigger that represents baseball cards more than that card. And it's not like
Okay.
I'm a Yankees fan. It's not like I love Mickey Mantle, but it's just it's it's the top of the mountain for baseball cards for me. And there's there's all these reasons why it's like the top of the mountain card that we can talk about, and I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, post-war America, the emergence of television, all of these kinds of things happening. But the punchline is that, right, you know, as time has gone on since that card, that card remains like the card in the
Always
hobby.
was. Always. When I was a little
Mhm.
kid, always. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being a little
Yeah.
kid, like, opening my Beckett, like, leafing through, like, what's the most expensive card in the Beckett? Like, that one. Like, why? You know, and, like, you know, I never had seen one as a kid, you know, when I went to card shows as a kid, I never saw, even though they're it's not like they're super rare, right? But, you just didn't like, when I was a kid, I just never saw one. It was like a mythical thing, and I knew that, like, my dad
Sure.
had Mickey Mantles and stuff like that, and that was always, you know, the Mickey Mantle to have.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I have a really good friend named Jared who, before I got my Mickey Mantle, he had done like this insano trade with somebody where he kind of just pulled out all the stops to, to try to get one of these cards, and he was able to do it. And I remember thinking, like, I kind of looked at my collection and I was like, you know, there might be enough here that one day I could do it. Like,
Yeah.
maybe I can do it. And that's kind of where the germ of it kind of came from. Was like,
Yeah.
maybe, you know, I'll catch lightning in a bottle kind of thing, and be able to do one of these.
Did you so you made the trade with Ashish or was it a three-way?
Yeah, so it was this three-way kind of complicated deal where, a different dealer had the card, and I had seen it, and when I interacted with that dealer, I kinda got a vibe. Like, I asked him about some different cards, and I just got a vibe that this guy's numbers were just, like, way out of whack, so
Okay. Okay.
I kinda left it, and then it was crazy because, I was in the line at PSA to submit a bunch of cards, and I was just in the line, and I ended up chatting with one of the PSA representatives, a guy named Bradley Block. Actually, just saw him yesterday, which was fun.
Nice.
Um, and he was asking me about how my show was going and stuff like this, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay. They don't really have much of what I want here. And I had seen Ashish's table, and you know there were a
Mhm.
lot of good cards there, but nothing I was crazy excited about.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you know, it just through the conversation with this guy, you know, we're just talking about cards that we were interested in. You know, he was also a vintage guy, and he was just kind of like, oh well, kind of show me what you got, because I told him I had brought some cards to maybe trade if I saw something. So I busted out what I had, which was like, I think I had with me like, I think I had a 54 Aaron. I think I had a 33 Gaudy Gehrig. You
Oh, I
know,
pause.
yeah, yeah,
For people who because not everyone's a card collector. I got people who are just kind
no
of
point.
listening for other reasons. The cards he's describing, it's not like his card just like, "Oh, just bring this and that." Like, dude, right off the top, those are monsters. Aaron rookie, 33 Gaudy Gehrig. Like, you're not just like you're not bringing 89 tops on trade tossing with you. Like,
Yeah,
those are monsters you're bringing. So when you went, did you had Mantle on the mind?
I actually had like big card on the mind. Like
Big
I was
card on
kind
the
of,
mind.
yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of like
Okay.
these are cards that I really like, but if something amazing were to come along, like maybe I'd make a trade for it. Like in my
Okay.
mind, it was
Okay.
like it was mostly what I was thinking was maybe a yellow Gaudy Garrett or yellow Gaudy
Uh,
Ruth. That was the
oh,
card
the
that was,
yellow one.
yeah, that I was
Don't you have all 4?
no, I have,
No.
so I have owned the red one, which is the
Okay.
one that, you know, you're interested in, and I
Yeah, oh,
gave that
yeah.
one up to get the mantle. And
Right.
I'd
Okay.
also had the swinging one,
Okay.
the 141,
Yeah.
and now I've recently got, last year I bought the yellow. I've
Yeah, yeah.
never owned a green, although I want to
Okay.
at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you're walking around, you're showing what's his name? Brad Block?
Bradley,
Bradley
yeah,
Block. Okay. You
yeah,
start showing, you pull out what you got. So we
yeah.
start with the 54 Aaron, 33 Gaudy, Gehrig.
Yeah, and I think there was a 39 play ball Joe DiMaggio.
Okay.
There was a Jordan rookie. I think it was a PSA 7 Jordan rookie. Um,
Very nice.
there were, I think I had my 33 Red Ruth, which was an SGC 2.5. I had that there with
Nice.
me. You know, so I had some really nice cards. And so, you know, I'm
Yeah.
showing him, and oh, there was a Jackie Robinson rookie, a 1948 Leaf. I think it was a PSA 1.5. So I mean, it was a stack of like really pretty good
Yeah.
cards, right?
Those
Like
are
really good cards.
yeah.
Um, Also with like good eye appeal, like good, nice examples.
Wasn't there a Cobb there in the mix too?
I didn't bring that one, but I
Okay.
ended up moving it. So there were a bunch of
Okay.
cards that I had. It was like a two-stage kind of deal.
Okay.
Um, but then so I'm showing this guy Bradley these cards, and he's like, "Oh man, these are really nice cards. Do you mind if I like take a picture of them and send them to one of my dealer friends that's here? He'll be
Okay.
super interested." And I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead, dude." And it's kind of weird like handing over like a pile of really expensive cards to somebody. But I see him, he goes over, he takes a picture, he sends them, and then like I didn't know Ash at that time. I had heard of him on Facebook and stuff, but
Yep. Yep.
then he
Same.
comes walking over and he's like, Bradley introduces us and we're just chatting. And so she's like, "Yeah, those cards are really nice. I'm really interested in them. Um, like, what do you want to do with them?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to sell them because I really like them. I'm
Yeah.
only interested in maybe trading them if I can get something awesome." So he's like, "Well, what are you thinking?" I'm like, something like a 52 mantle or something like a yellow Ruth. And he's like, "Well," and she said, like, "Well, judging by the eye appeal of the cards that you have here, I know that the ones that I have aren't something that you're interested in, but I saw one at a different table. I'm going to go get it and bring it over and we can talk about it." So he goes back to the first
The
dealer where I
guy.
saw the
Yeah.
card. He gets the mantle. He comes back, walks it over to me, and he's like, "Is this, I'll show it to you." And he's like, "Is this, what do you think?
Oh my
Is this one,
god.
how does that one hit your eye?" I'm like, "That is exactly
How
what
is
I'm
that a
talking about."
2, by the way?
So it's a two. There's it's really hard to see, but there's some creasing coming from over here, and I think there's another crease like over here. There's like a little
Uh-huh.
mark there. I mean, like, come on, like, come on.
But the centering is magnificent on that.
Yeah, it's
The
really well
color,
centered.
great registration.
It just looks like you know, in my mind's eye, what
Yeah.
a 1956 Topps guy version of this card would look like.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, that's an awesome looking card. Like, I would love to get that. And then so then Ash was like, "Okay, well, this would be a thing where I'd have to buy this card from another dealer, and then you and I would have to come up with what you trade me." And so I finished my work over at PSA. I'm like madly like texting all of my card friends and be like, "Am I crazy? Like, what's going on?" And I walked over and basically then we hashed out like over kind of like 2.5 hours, like,
Wow.
uh, and it really, yeah. And I think I described this on Jeremy Lee's podcast, that it was like I'm just like going through all my cards. I'm
Uh-huh.
having that moment that we talked about earlier, which is like, okay, which of these things are kind of replaceable,
Yep.
and which of the things will just like pain me. It's a kind of a combination of how replaceable versus like how much would I miss it, you
Yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah. That's a
Yeah,
big
and
thing. Absolutely.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I have some inexpensive cards that I knew would be very hard to replace, and there were other cards that were just like too dear to my heart
Sure.
to put in the deal, right?
Sure.
And
Sure,
so
sure.
we basically walked over. I handed him. We kind of hashed out. It came out to 16 cards
Okay.
that I was going to trade for this Mickey Mantle. Um, and I gave some of them to him at that time.
Okay.
And then I went home, I grabbed the rest of them and came back to the show the next day, gave him the rest of the cards. He gave me the mantle,
Oh,
and
okay.
there it was.
Okay, so now let's break it down. So you gave him the cards that you're interested that you were carrying,
Yeah,
and I guess you had some sort of verbal agreement. You must have pictures on your phone or your
yeah,
Flickr or whatever, so he's seeing what you got.
yeah.
So let me ask you about the time in between.
Oh my
If you
god.
remember, let me ask you about like what are your thoughts on like you're halfway through the deal, right? And you're going to bed that night. What are you thinking about? Like, are you in? Are you? Where's your head at?
I'm just freaking out. I mean, I'm
Ah!
like, I was just a bottle of nerves because, like, it's constantly like, am I doing the right thing? Um, am I putting the right cards in there? Am I getting a fair deal for the cards I'm giving
Okay.
up? Is
Okay.
the value of the mantle reasonable to me? So all these things are playing out. And I mean, I had at that point I had committed to making the deal, right? So I
Right.
was definitely going to
Right.
do it. But
Right.
I mean, for the most part, though, it was pure excitement. It was
Yeah.
pure like, tomorrow evening I will be the owner of a really nice 1952 Topps
Wow.
mantle, and that feeling was,
Wow.
it was pretty amazing.
What was it like when the deal was consummated? You shook hands. Ash had his cards. You had the mantle. What was it like the first time you held it in your hands as your 52 Mantle?
It was overwhelming.
Uh,
I, like, kinda took the card. I remember taking a picture with Ash of me and
uh-huh.
him holding the
Yeah, of
card,
course,
and then
yeah.
I took the card and I put it in my bag, and I honestly, like, couldn't look at it. Like, I was just, like, in shock that this had happened.
Uh-huh.
And I remember just being like, "Oh my god. Oh my god." You know, I'm just freaking out. I remember I just wandering around the show just kinda aimlessly, just,
Sure,
like,
you're done at that point, may as well
my
go home.
my brain's just fried, and I'm, like, too amped up to, like, drive and stuff, and I felt like
Okay.
a that's when I, like, came over and I saw, like, Jeremy Lee standing at the tag booth, and I, bam, showed him the mantle, and we talked about it, and I remember just kinda, like I felt like I was just, like, walking around the show either, like, look
Ah,
you
that's what
know,
I
like, I remember
would
I found, Rob Veras, who's the
Uh-huh.
owner of,
Sure.
Burbank Sports Cards, and I showed it to him and talked about it with him, and so it was just like
Wow.
it was definitely, um it felt like it felt like what I wanted it to feel like, which is like,
So
top of the mountain kinda thing.
top of the mountain. Absolutely, man. Mazel. What an
Thanks.
all-timer. Absolutely. Who was the first person you told about it who really didn't give a damn? It's
I
always
yeah.
I always
Um,
think about that, you know?
mhm. That's a really good question. I mean, I think the closest person I would the thing is that I my wife, like, doesn't care that much. She was just
Okay,
kind of
mine neither.
curious,
Yeah,
just kinda curious. She, like, knew that the card was important, didn't really understand, like, why it was important until we
yeah,
kind of had some fun conversations about that, but, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I haven't really told too many people that don't give a damn about it. Like, I remember
good.
showing a picture of it on my Flickr to my brother who's a comic collector, and he was like, "Oh," he, like, knew what it was,
He
and then
knew,
he showed it to
yeah.
his wife, and she's like, "What's that?" He's like, "That's like the Mickey this is this," and she's like, "That's crazy. That's just"
Number 1 Superman.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not that, but pretty cool.
Yeah.
Ugh, alright, I got a couple more questions for you, then we're
Yeah.
gonna say goodnight. What is the card that you're going after right now?
So, one of the cards that's really high on my list is the, T206 Walter Johnson portrait.
That's
So
a
it's
nice
kind of
one.
a yellow background card,
Mhm, mhm.
really hard to find with great registration and
Yeah,
centering. So,
yeah,
that's that one's really high on my list. That's probably the number 1 on my list right now.
nice. And, my follow-up question to that is, you know, lots of us use different platforms, lots of us use the same platforms as each other. That's one of those cards that I'm sure gets listed in weird ways on eBay, like all cards get listed, but probably is not your first choice. You're probably looking, I'm not a huge fan of buying those kind of cards typically off of eBay. Uh, no judgment if you are, but it seems like maybe more of like an REA or a Heritage. Where are you looking for it?
I mean, I've actually never purchased a card from REA or any of the big auction
Oh,
houses.
interesting.
I just never have.
Okay.
I'm mostly like, I'm a combination of, like, eBay and kinda, like,
Oh,
private deals kinda
private
guy.
deals.
So
Did you
I do
find big
spend
cards on eBay?
sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
I've gotten some
There
pretty
we
good
go.
cards from it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but I think most of my biggest cards have been cards that were posted in a Facebook group. Another big one for me is, Net54, which is,
Yeah.
a vintage cards forum. So there's pretty solid group of guys sell
Yeah.
some really nice stuff
I'm
on
trying to
there.
build up my I'm not in the habit of it. I posted looking for that Ruth and 2 people Don Hans posted, and then some guy tried to scam me the other guy. It's like and he kept, like, lower at first, like, the price was super low. I'm like, "Are you sure you only wanna charge me, I don't know, like, $2,000?" And then he wrote back, like, $7,000. I'm like, "Come on, man. You're a scammer."
Yeah, what are you doing? You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I
Right on.
mostly do that, but I don't transact that
Yeah.
much, honestly.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't buy too many
no.
not very frequently anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Cool, cool, cool. Man, Matt, that was amazing.
It
Thank you
was
so
super fun.
much. Oh, you know what I forgot to mention? I want everyone to know that, you and, maybe you tell us a little bit about Rough Cuts.
Yeah, so, some buddies and I, on Instagram, it's, Nate, who's at In Cardboard Veritas, and Jonathan, who's at Sports Cards and Sunsets, and we kind of do like an Instagram live every 4 weeks ish. We're not very
Yeah.
good about it, and it's mostly just like just pure vintage collector discussion. You know, we're not talking about who you should buy to make money. It's just really people nerding out about vintage cards and why they love them. And so we do an Instagram live, and then we take that live, turn it into, rip the audio and put it on in podcast form on Apple and
Yep.
Spotify and all those places. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's called Rough Cuts.
You guys did a great dive into the Cracker Jacks.
Yeah, it was really fun. Love those
Really
cards.
fun. I really want a 1915 John McGraw. Yeah.
I saw a six, a PSA
Oh,
6 of that card
yeah. So
yesterday.
one that came in the set.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. I
I
kind of
love
want to have a little stains on mine.
yeah, I do too. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's fun. I mean, they're just super rare cards. I feel like I saw maybe in all of the Burbank show, I saw maybe like 6 of them in the whole room.
Hardly. They're super scarce, man. People, those are in collections because they're so beautiful. Yeah. Do you have
Yeah,
any?
I do. I have 2. Here's a
Oh,
1915 Roger Bresnahan.
beautiful.
I have that
That's
one.
perfect. That's my kind of card. A two. That's a nice two.
Here's a SGC 3
Yeah.
19. This is a 1914
Oh, yeah.
Henry Zimmerman, also on the Cubs. So
Nice.
part of
So
my
is it 14 or 15 where they're designed to be, put into books where it's upside down?
so 15 is the back is upside down in the 15.
Right, because it was bound to be flipped up.
Yeah,
Cool. Cool, cool,
yeah,
cool. Well, all
yeah.
right. Really, really fun. I also want to say thank you before I say thank you to before I forget, I want to say thank you to Terry, TJ Maxx, Vintage Sports Cards, who gave me a shout out on his video. And all of a sudden I got all these new subscribers on my YouTube channel. So thank you, Matt, for helping me raise my game for all these new subscribers. Now people actually like watching and listening. That was really, really fun, man.
I
Super,
had a
super
great time.
fun. Yeah. Are you gonna do a national?
I'm undecided yet.
Yeah.
I don't have like a ticket or anything. I'm kind of on the fence. What
Yeah.
about you?
I bought the ticket when I was having a really hard week. I'm like, I need something to look forward to. So I bought
Mhm.
a ticket and I think I'm gonna go. Although it's such a strange experience last time. It was more clarifying than anything else. So like it's a little overwhelming for
It
me.
is. It's
Um
overwhelming for me too. It's like
a little,
overstimulation.
yeah. Like I think if I go back, I'm gonna have the ticket. If and when I go back, I'm just gonna be very selective and just go and just do like little bits instead of like grinding that and being super exhausted. It's too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, thank you so much. Just a real highlight of my day and of my week and of my month. Thank you, man.
Oh, I really appreciate it. I'm so glad that you gave me the opportunity to come on, talk about Cubs, talk about 1989. It was an absolute blast, and I think I'm just really happy to be a part of your amazing podcast. It's
Right
one of
on.
the it's definitely my I listen to a lot of hobby content. I listen to most of it on like 1.5 to 1.25x. I always listen to yours on 1x because I just love it so much.
Thank you. That's awesome. I appreciate it. Cool. Well, until we see each other again, may you enjoy and may you be blessed with health and long life. So long for now.